I want to ask about another issue, too, for the next election. We're looking at another federal election, end of this year, possibly next year, early next year. Big news out of One Nation. You've brought Craig Kelly in from the UAP to run your federal national campaign. We talked about this a bit earlier in the week, but what does this mean? And is this going to mean that all of the kind of smaller, minor parties are going to coalesce underneath the One Nation banner? Or is that what the aim is here to do with this move?
It basically is, Clive is not registered any longer. And when we're speaking of Clive, I just want to put out a big thank you to Clive Palmer for funding the case in Queensland to do with the Supreme Court and the COVID. So big thank you to him. With regard to that, Clive Palmer deregistered the party federally. So although he's got Senator Babette there, who I respect, his hard work, he is a great representative in the floor of Parliament. So now, people have kept saying, why can't all of you Conservatives get together and work together? I've been trying to do that for quite some time, but it hasn't happened. Now with bringing Craig Kelly into the fold of One Nation to work for us and to go around and speak to people, I think it's a big plus that people will come on board that Conservative side. You see, Dunkley, because we didn't stand in Dunkley either, did Clive Palmer. So that was 8% of the Conservative vote that basically some went back to the Labor Party, because a lot of Labor Party will vote for us that won't vote for Libs. And the fact is that that vote was then split. So we do have an impact on the voters in Australia. Those people who want the Conservative side of politics, and they see the moderates infiltrating the Liberal Party, and they are so angry about it. People want family values. They want their kids not to talk this bloody rubbish, this gender dysphoria rubbish that's going on at the moment. So there's a lot of real Conservative values that we stand for. Let's stop the high immigration. Let's get the housing. Look after your businesses. Get rid of this net zero, because that's my policy. I will not support net zero of any form. Let's get back to the real policies, and I think that's what people want, is strong leadership and good policies and have a vision for the future.
Rita?
Well, I was going to ask you about Dunkley. How do you see the result there, and did you make a strategic decision not to run a candidate there?
Yes, we did. We didn't want to stand in Dunkley. We knew that we would not have a chance of winning the seat, but the battle has to be, and people have to understand the battle's got to be between the Liberal and Labor, with us, throwing in anything there. If you look at the vote that both of us with UAP and One Nation was 8%, maybe if we had stood, it might have swung to the Libs. So this might be a big lesson for the Libs. At the next election, don't put the Greens and Labor ahead of One Nation, which they did in the last election. So the Libs have got a lot to answer for in how they treated One Nation in the last election, when most of the time, I support coalition policies and legislation. I'm not their enemy. The enemy in this country is mainly the Greens, and the Labor takes up Greens policies. But the people aren't informed enough about where this country is going. Rowan mentioned about the misinformation, disinformation bill. That will have such an impact on our freedom of speech and the right information, critical thinking getting out in our country, even from politicians and political parties. What they're doing in the environment, where they're shutting down industries, manufacturing, where the electricity prices, this renewable energy. It's going to have such an impact on our cost of living, which it is, but even more so. And that's why it's imperative that we get it right with policies. And the Libs, and another thing about Victoria, there's been no presence of the Liberal Party in Victoria for quite some time. Weak leadership, they've gone woke. That's why the media are always on the side of the Labor. So they've got to get their message out, what they stand for, what they intend to do. This is what people want. But I think it's a real lesson. Albanese is not as safe as what he thinks he is. The turn is on against Labor because they can't stand his lies. He goes back on his word, and he's not a true leader for this nation.
Pauline Hanson, fantastic always to chat to you and to have you here on Outsiders this morning. Thank you so much.